Once again, we're going to go to some of the writings of Paul in the New Testament. Thessalonians. He wrote two letters, we know, to the church in Thessalonica. And those two letters, by the way, are some of the most personal and affectionate letters that Paul wrote. And we know he wrote quite a bit of them. Thessalonica, by the way, is still there. However, it's now called Thessaloniki or something like that. It ends in N-I-K-I instead of N-I-C-A. And it's located in Greece. It's on the north shore of Greece, the north end of the Aegean Sea. It's west of Philippi. You remember we've looked at Philippians. And then a little bit further over to the left, if you're looking at a map, you'll see the town of Thessaloniki, or Thessalonica, as it was called back then. And if you want to go to Thessalonica, you can. You can book a cruise on Celestial Cruise Line. They have a port there. And if you go into town when you're there, be careful where you go. There's a building right near the port the building is called Lucifer. And in that building is the Vanilla World Sky Bar. I don't think you will ever find me there. One of the most popular restaurants in Thessalonica today is called Iliopetra. Their menu changes every day because they go to the local market early every morning and they buy what's available. They go back to their little restaurant, it's a small place, and they cook whatever they were able to find at the market that morning. And two of their specialties is rooster pasta and broiled beef tongue. I don't think you'll ever find me there either.
Let's take a church trip there.
But Paul, Silas, and Timothy went to Thessalonica on their second missionary journey and established the church there. At that time, Thessalonica was a big city. It was 200,000 people. That's about the size of Little Rock, Arkansas today. They've got about 200,000 people, so it was a big city. It's the second place that they preached the gospel of Jesus Christ. The first being, you may remember, in Philippi. About 50 A.D., Paul, Silas, and Timothy went to Thessalonica and established the church there after already a couple of years before establishing the church in Philippi. But Paul was only able to stay in Thessalonica about a month because they were highly persecuted there. The people were really, I'll put it this way, Satan was really fighting that church in Thessalonica, and Paul had to flee, and he went to Corinth, which is the southern side of the Aegean Sea, down near Athens, Greece. He went to Corinth, and the church carried on in Thessalonica, mainly with Timothy's help. First Thessalonians is considered to be the oldest known Christian text that was written. So it must be the first letter that Paul wrote. He established the church in Philippi, later the church in Thessalonica, then he went to Corinth. He was establishing the church in Corinth, and he wrote two letters to the church in Thessalonica, and it's believed, 1 Corinthians is believed to be the first letter that Paul wrote, so it is the first, the original, the oldest living Christian text. It was written before Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, before Acts and Romans and all the other books by Paul, before Jude and John, 1, 2, 3 John, all of those. It's believed to be the first. And Paul wrote those two books to the church in Thessalonica to commend them for showing their love, to defend the church and his ministry, and defend their continuing ministry, to teach them regarding resurrection, and a lot in Thessalonians 1 and 2 about the return of Jesus Christ. 1 Thessalonians was written, and not long after that, probably a couple of months, he wrote the second letter, and Timothy also took it back to the church. And in one of their church services, like we talked about earlier, read that letter to them. It was probably when they gathered in someone's home or somewhere and were having their normal weekly service, and Timothy read the letters to the church in Thessalonica. He told them that some of them believed because of some of the things Jesus said, that his return was imminent. He's coming back any day now. There were even people in Thessalonica in that church that quit their jobs. They quit working. And they said, why should I work? Jesus is coming back to take us all before long. They didn't understand. And Paul was telling them, don't do that. Remain disciplined. Earn your own living. But at the same time, stand firm in what you believe and in your teachings in your little church there. But he talked a whole lot about the second coming of Jesus. And if you want to read some of the things that are said, Paul's words, read 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. But in Thessalonians 3:3, which I believe is a very profound and very powerful verse, Chris is going to read to us now.
But the Lord is faithful, and he will strengthen you and protect you from the evil one.
That verse, I believe, gives us the answer to two questions. Two questions that have been around for a long, long time. You know, we have lots of questions. People have always asked questions. I mean, questions like, who let the dogs out? You know, who's going to stop the rain? Why do fools fall in love? Questions like that, you know. Where have all the flowers gone? Does anybody really know what time it is? You know, questions like that. This verse, I believe, answers two questions. The first question, does God really live up to his promises? Or what does it say? God is faithful. And then another question, who's going to protect us from all this evil in the world? That verse tells you. It tells you God is going to protect you. Not only that, but he will strengthen you in order to help protect yourself. But there are two questions. God going to live up to his promises, and who's going to protect us? That are answered in that verse. But you must notice that verse begins with the word but. Now when something starts with that means you need to go back and see what it says right before that. Right before verse 3 and verse 2, it says, not everyone has faith, but God is faithful. Meaning God is always faithful. Not everyone has faith. We have faith. I have faith, and I'm pretty sure most of you do. But Paul is telling them there, not everyone does, but God does. And those that don't will be the ones that you will need strength and help to protect yourself from. That's what Paul is saying in that verse. Now, I don't think I need to tell anybody who he's talking about when he says the evil one, do I? God's going to live up to his promises, and God's going to give you the strength and help protect you from the evil one. That's what that verse is saying. So, we know not everybody has faith. Paul knew that. God knows that. Says it right there in the Bible. So it's got to be true, right? There are a lot of people in this world who may act like and tell you that they have faith that do not. And that's always been true. Always will be true. There are so-called Christians out there that if you examine their lives, you will find out they're not. They don't have faith. There are good Christian people who live a good Christian life who do not have faith. They do not believe completely, 100%, that God's going to protect them. And that God will give them the strength that they need to overcome the sins in their lives. But that's exactly what this says. It says God's faithful. He promised you he'd do that. And then it says he will give you the strength to overcome the evil one, the devil. The Lord is faithful. But God gives us the strength when we falter in our faith to overcome the evil one. Faithful means being full of faith. Now remember, I'm describing God here. Full of faith, loyal, steadfast, worthy of trust, adheres to promises, is accurate, is exact. Now isn't that God? That's why Paul says God is faithful, because those words describe him. But some people can't be that way. Even though they're good Christians, they believe in Jesus Christ, some of those things, tell a little fib, stretch the truth a little bit, not worthy of trust sometimes. There are a lot of people who just are not faithful all the time. But God is. Talking about that man of lawlessness, that's the devil. It's Satan that we're fighting against. He's the one that comes in and tries to destroy our faith. But he can't do it to God, can he? Because God is faithful. Satan, the old serpent, the devil, Satan, whatever you want, Lucifer, whatever you want to call him, he's trying to destroy and oppose whatever is good. He's trying to exalt himself above everything else. He's trying to be what we worship. He's trying to enter our churches, has entered our schools, has entered our government. That's who we're fighting, and that's who we as Christians will have to continue to fight, and that's who God will give us the strength to fight, and he will help us fight that. There's a lot of lawlessness already in the world. The evil one is seeking to ruin every one of us because we go to church, because we worship Jesus Christ. Those are the ones that he's after. He's active. Just as he was active in those early churches, he's active today in our churches, in our government, in our schools, everywhere. You can see it everywhere you will look. Back then, he did not want those new churches to be formed. He did not want the life of Jesus Christ to be taught and carried on. He did not want people to worship the Son of God. He knew Jesus was the Son of God. Satan's never denied that. Satan's never denied that there was a God. But he does not want humans to believe that. We're the ones that he's after. He's trying to take us away from God and away from Jesus Christ. And his demonic fallen angels are out there helping him all the time. They're trying to infiltrate the churches back then just like they're trying to do today. I read something just the other day about the Presbyterian church. We know some Presbyterians. But they just started something. When they're interviewing new candidates for ministry in the Presbyterian church, they now ask them what they feel about alternative lifestyles and do they accept them, to get people to get into the ministry in the Presbyterian church. And we left the United Methodist Church. Read about what's happening in the United Methodist Church now. Satan has definitely infiltrated the United Methodist Church. Definitely. You read what they're doing now and you'll understand what I'm talking about. It's like they're trying to write their own Bible, or they're trying to change some of the words in the Bible, or they're trying to reinterpret some of the things in the Bible. I think the Bible's pretty literal. What's that word I'm looking for?
Literal.
What?
Literal.
Literal. Yes. And what it says, I think it's, even if you read Revelation, there's some things in there that say, wow, what is that? But if you think about, that was written 2,000 years ago and compare it to what today, I'll give you a perfect example of that. And I heard this just the other day from a black preacher. We're listening to a little bit about it, what he was talking about. He said that it says that the abomination that makes desolation will be put in the temple in Jerusalem in midway through the tribulation period. And he said that they will give that, there'll be a statue and he'll make people worship it, and they'll give that statue the ability to talk. That's a robot. Think about that. They didn't know what robots were 2,000 years ago. But now we've got AI, we're creating robots that can talk. So who's not going to say that what they put in the temple in Jerusalem is not going to be a robot that's able to talk? It makes sense. I don't know if it's true or not, but this guy really believed it was true. But we can't change the Bible. There's no ambiguity in the words of the Lord, which is what the Bible is. But Paul joyfully reminds us that God is greater. He's faithful. He's promised to be faithful and guard us and protect us. And we serve him because he is that way for us. We have to fight all the time. There's constant battle between the church and the evil one, and the things we want to do and the things that the devil wants us not to do and the devil wants to happen in this world. He still thinks he can win. But he knows he can. He's read the Bible too, I'm sure. I bet you he's read Revelation. He's probably trying to change the words of it, but he can't. But Paul is talking to this little group of believers in Corinthians, and Thessalonica, and he gives us these great words that apply to the church even today. Because what was happening then with Satan trying to destroy the church is happening today. And he tells them, hold fast in your faith. Believe that the gospel is true, because the days are evil. Remember we talked about that about 3 weeks ago. Today, the days are actually evil, aren't they? A lot of human wickedness and a lot of sneaky things going on by the devil and his demons that are trying to take you away from church and take you away from worshiping Jesus Christ. It continues today. That evil one is still after us. But Paul made us a promise because God had made a promise. And that promise holds today. God is faithful. God lives up to his promises. How many times did he forgive the Israelites and save them from slavery and captivity and persecution? How many times today does he have to forgive us for our sins and save us for slavery to those sins? We're captives of greed, jealousy, hatred, anger, aren't we? How many times does God have to save us from those things? That's just like a human. We cannot be forever faithful. You look through history and you can see the contrast of God's faithfulness and the perversity of the human people on this earth that he created. Isn't it? Sometimes you wonder, why does he still love us when we're so sinful? When we turn our backs on him? When people refuse to acknowledge him? When people don't pray? When people don't go to church? Why does God still love us? It's because he is faithful. And he wants us to call on him just like he calls on us. He wants us to choose him just like he has chosen us. He wants us to be faithful just like he has always been faithful. He wants us to love him just like he has always loved us. And if we do those things, he will keep us safe from the evil one. Sin and death cannot control you if you have God completely in your life. He's given you that escape route from the devil. He gave you Jesus Christ as your way to heaven and your way to salvation. But God knows that we're weak. He understands that we will fail. He knows it's going to happen, but he's always there to forgive us. And verse 2, right before the one Chris read, tells us, if you pray to God, he will deliver you from the evil one. That's it. All you have to do is call out his name. Dear faithful God, save us, save me from the evil one. Amen.